you know, in the agenda, you can see we have a plenary session now, just started. And we will have a presentation of ETIP SNET and Bridge from our chairman, Occo Ziegler. Then we will have the EC keynote speech from Mark van Stiphout. And then we will go to the first panel session moderated by Ludwig Kark from BAM Consult and Shenia Rudenberg from Clarence. And we will have also the representative of the ETIP SNET working groups in this panel. Then we will go ahead with the parallel sessions. We will have 4 parallel sessions that will run from 10:30 to 12. And we will give you 10 to 12 minutes of coffee break before going to the final session. And in these parallel sessions, we will tackle 4 main topics. As you can see here, the first one is electromobility integration in the energy systems. The second one is cooperation between energy system operators. And for both parallel sessions, we will have moderators and panelists. And also we will have presentation of 90-second speech of some European projects and some EU-funded at national and regional level projects. Then we will go to the other parallel session. Everything will be parallel, of course, and we will have digitalization, managing energy data, and cybersecurity. And then we will tackle with consumers' involvement, citizens' engagement, and energy communities. After these parallel sessions, that you can also, again, access with the links, the separate links that you have in the access card that you receive also this morning. Again, to be sure, we will go to the conclusion session. I will moderate it as well, so you will see me again. And we will have 5 panelists that will show us the results and the outcomes of the parallel sessions. And then we will end up our regional workshop, and we will book your time for the next regional workshop on 22nd of June, but I will come back to this in the conclusions. Now, to start, some rules. We will we will do some polls via Slido. So please, now, I would invite you to scan the link, or just scan the barcode that you can see on the slides, or just go to slido.com and enter this code 635722. You can find this also in the chat, so it's easier for you, maybe reach it. And during the workshop, you can select the room where we are. On the top left, you will find it, and you can select plenary session now. And when we will be split, you will go in the parallel session that you prefer. You can select, please remember always to select the right room. Always in Slido. So now some general rules. Please switch off your microphone and camera. Now I think all of us unfortunately get used to this. Only panelists and moderators will have their camera on and the Microsoft microphone on. We will have a question and answer session in the chat on Teams. On Slido, the question and answer is disabled. Please be aware that we are recording all the workshop, including the parallel sessions, and this will be shared after. But if you don't agree, unfortunately, you need to be aware about this. And then the access link will be posted in any case after each, at the end of each session in the chat, to make you easier to access to the next session and find easily the link if you have any problem with the access card. Now, let's go to the first introductory poll. How many participants we have now? I think we are around 111. So please go to Slido now, insert not this code that you see on the screen, so sorry for this, but this code here again, that you find also in the chat. And we will ask you some introductory questions, some quick questions, just as a welcoming and a warm up among us. Of course, I hope that all of you is fine. Despite the situation, and I hope that we can come back soon to our normal life, but for the meantime, let's continue like that and be strong. But let's go now to our introductory poll. Valentina, if you can share the screen, we will have 5 questions for you. So just to test if you know ETIP SNET. This is why I didn't tell you anything until now, neither what stand our acronym for. First question is, do you know ETIP SNET? And I I'm happy to see that 74% of you, now a bit less, knows you. We have 72 replies at the moment. So we can keep some seconds to go to the poll to allow you to enter. If you have any problem, please let us know. I repeat, the code is 635722. And so this is, okay, so we have 72 replies at the moment, 73%, the majority at the moment seems to know ETIP SNET. Good. Let's go to the next question. What does ETIP SNET stand for? Let's see if it's real true that you knows us. So please reply to this. This is our acronym. Voila. Okay, you know us. Good. So you're well prepared. Some people make some mistakes, but after today, you will know what ETIP SNET exactly does.
No, Laura, Maria Laura, we will eliminate them immediately. We eliminate them immediately.
Yes, yes. So we will proceed. So let's go to the next question. Are you or have you been in the past involved in ETIP SNET activities? Let's see how many of you already, apart knowing activities, is already involved. Okay. For me, this is a good result because it means that after today, you can have the occasion to be involved as expert also in our work, as you will see, and how you will see later with our chairman in his presentation. Thanks. Then, in which country is your company located? To see at this, let's say, regional, I would say, angle of our workshop is well taken. So please write the name of the country in English. Let's see from which country. Now it's clear it's from Germany. But okay, it's very good to see that good part of Europe, and not only European Union, I see also UK with pleasure here with us, is represented. So please continue to vote. So this will be useful for us for our check. After all, thank you. And then let's go to the last question. Which sector are you from? Okay. For this, I will give you some seconds more, because this is important to know for us also for seeing what are the actors around the table. Okay, so we have 23% at the moment of research institutes, 21 technology provider, around 20 universities, others. I don't know if there is the space to reply, but yeah, so thanks in any case to be here. And sorry if you are not in the categories. DSO 12%, European institutions 4%, NGO 4%, TSO 3%, public service 3%, energy utility 1% at the moment. There are no national ministry R&I funding agencies. This will help us national platform and the last one, regulatory authority. This spot us to improve on this sector as well. So really, really thank you for your reply. Now we can go ahead and we can enter in the content topics. And so welcome again. Thank you for your participation. Let's go ahead, and I will leave the floor. I leave the floor to our chairman, Jan Occo Ziegler, for presenting ETIP SNET and Bridge. Now a bit more in details for the 50% of the one that still don't know us and our activities. Thank you very much, and have a good workshop.
Good morning and welcome all. Thank you, Maria Laura. Very, very interesting and useful poll indeed. So people seem to know us in terms of existence, but not necessarily in terms of detailed contributions. So I'll try at least to use the time we have this morning to introduce a few of our key activities and a framework. So I'll share a presentation right now. Let me see. Here we go. You should all be able to see it. There we go. Can everybody see that? That should be the title of our 11th ETIP SNET regional workshop.
Yeah. We see correctly. You can go ahead.
We held them regularly, but thanks for being with us today. So basically, why doesn't it swap? Just a second. I can't. No, now it works. Okay, here we go. So as you rightly identified, this is the ETIP regarding networks, smart networks for energy transition. It's 1 out of 10 that were created in 2016, the outcome of the SET plan. All this within the European context by the European Commission. So obviously it's about integrating as much as possible all stakeholders and vectors of the energy system. We have obviously a lot to do with research and innovation. That's also why we have many research institutes being present today. And we want to define together with all stakeholders what are Europe's specific innovation challenges regarding the energy system, and in particular networks, obviously. So from ideas to facts, we put together many experts, stakeholders from different sectors to elaborate together the visions, basically a vision from now to 2050. Then from there, we translate that into roadmaps that are about regarding decades. The current one is 2020 to 2030. And then we detail it a bit further in implementation plans that cover always 3-year periods. So obviously all this is useful to create a dialogue with the institutions and amongst all stakeholders regarding the strategic agendas and priorities that we identify. And these identified priorities also have to tackle obviously some hindrances, innovation barriers, and that is why it's important also to have with us regulation and financing, which unfortunately we didn't see many representatives being present today at this workshop for now. But that's something we will have to work upon, because it gets ever more flexible, as you all know, and that requires flexible regulation and flexible financing as well. Adapted. So here we have a short overview of our stakeholder system. So obviously regarding grids, this is mainly composed, this ETIP, of many experts from the distribution system operators, the transmission system operators, and storage providers, but not only. As you can see here, we also have suppliers, obviously, manufacturers, renewable energy source representatives, flexible generation, and so on and so on. We have created 5 specific working groups, which I will touch in more detail a little later, but you can see here that there is quite a substantial membership already, with 30 to 40, 50 members per working group. And these groups are open, so obviously feel free to join. If you're more inclined to tackle the smart sector integration altogether, maybe working group 1 can be yours. If you are coming from the storage sector, working group 2, you see it here. Generation, flexible generation, working group 3, customer participation, digitalization as strong enablers, working group 4, and obviously innovation then within the business environment, working group 5. But we'll see that in a bit more detail. Altogether, 350 experts for now. Make us become stronger. Join us. So this is basically the outcome of the vision. To keep it simple, I only put here the key topics, obviously, that we all know that result necessary in order to reach the energy transition goals. So Europe will have to tackle ever more distributed, flexible renewable energy sources, their incorporation into the grids. This means also flexibility, ever more. Storage solutions crucial in order to handle also this integration of renewables. Smart sector integration. Why did this go further? Okay, smart sector integration, customers as always, and digitalization as enabler, as mentioned before. So we then declined this vision into a roadmap, the first roadmap covering this decade from now to 2030. And as we see, obviously here, we have to consider that electric mobility will come into play ever stronger, that we have greenhouse gas emission reduction targets, that we have stronger electrification of energy uses of all kinds, be it for the tertiary sector, but also for domotics and for private customers. So all these are examples that show that are then translated into this roadmap. The roadmap will be overhauled by December next year. And it is basically split into 12 key functionalities. So you see them listed here. I won't enumerate them, but feel free to look at these documents that are available on our website. So it's all the result of a consultation amongst the working group participants, all experts that are within ETIP SNET, that come up in a strong effort all together with the roadmap as you see it here, declined into these 12 functionalities. It all starts actually from 6 research areas that were identified between now and 2030. You have them here. So obviously it has to do with citizen energy communities and strengthening the customer characteristic, becoming ever more prosumer. The system economics in themselves, also about regulation, governance, economic equilibrium amongst actors, digitalization, the technological enabler of the immediate future, ever more, especially now in this pandemic we're living through. So many of us, like myself, will be in home working for some time now, or have been. Planning holistic architectures altogether, so all these assets will have to interact ever more. That's strongly linked to the next point, flexibility, platformization, and the system operation altogether. So this is the result is implementation plans, as you can see here, even with indicative values. Here it's a budget in millions of euros per subcategory of these 6 research areas. We'll review this implementation plan at the end of this year. Now, a few words regarding our 5 working groups, so you can have an easier choice as to which group to join. Working group 1, very active on sector integration right now. As you can see here, it started with a white paper on holistic architectures, first paper on sector coupling coming out in 2020, and right now they published the smart sector integration position paper. And this is really at the forefront of what Europe is expecting to happen regarding the link of existing and future energy vectors like hydrogen, electricity, gas, and how to interact amongst all these. Working group 2 is focusing more particularly on storage. By the way, you'll see at the end an invitation to their upcoming workshop, Batteries Europe. Very interesting, necessary for flexibility handling, also because, as we all know, the average size of the generation portfolio, not only in Europe, but even across the globe, is getting ever smaller. So between now and 2050, I think it will become like 8 times smaller, the average size of generation facilities. And that will require a lot of flexibility and a lot of enabling by storage facilities. Flexible generation, the same. Since we go towards smaller generation centers, these will have to be ever more flexible. And there is a strong collaboration here with the ETIP regarding renewable heat and cooling also. Digitalisation, as we said, the enabler. So if you are into ICT and technology providers, this is the group to be in. This group is actually also tackling the so-called big idea, which is the idea of a one-stop shop, a platform where all these actors come together, kind of a, say, wholesale for the energy vectors altogether. The ideal future world, let me put it simply like that. Very interesting concept. And then last but not least, Working Group 5 tackles the innovation implementation in the business environment. So this is more a kind of structured analysis of what needs to be done to help us enable all these ideas, all these innovation needs that were identified by the other groups. We also work together strongly with the Bridge initiative from the European Commission, and that was put into place also to tackle cross-cutting issues, because in the past there was a lot of specialized work, a lot of subsidized projects regarding specific areas. More and more, obviously, it's in the interest of everyone to become systemic and to have a holistic approach. That's why a Bridge was born a few years ago and is getting ever stronger. So, as I said before, please join us on our next workshop on batteries for smart energy and transport systems, to be held on the 5th of May. And the next regional workshop coming up soon, because we have many of them, as many as 8 planned between now and 2023. I hope this was useful for now, and I welcome you all again. I hope I'm sure we'll have very interesting and fruitful panel discussions in this morning, and thank you all for being with us.
Thank you, Occo, and thank you for the presentation. And now I hope that all the person that still didn't know you know us better. And as Occo said, please feel free to join our working groups as experts to bring the interest and the view of your companies and your research center or universities. And you can find the modality to apply on our website. So, or come back to us, you have all our contacts and we will support you in this. I see that maybe there is some question. There was a question concerning the flexible demand, if is allowed. Thanks, Shenia already replied that the flexible generation working group tackle also this aspect. So please feel free to join us. And I check if there is any other question. No, I don't see question. So now let's go ahead with the agenda. And we should have the keynote speech from the European Commission, from Mark van Stiphout, but I don't see him in among the participants. So
yes,
probably
yes, he's there.
Mark?
I'm here.
Oh, hi, Mark. Thank you very much.
Laura.
I didn't see you because we are 165, so I didn't see you through that. But very welcome. And please, the floor is yours for your keynote speech, and thanks for being here with us.
Great. Thank you very much, Maria Laura. Thank you very much also, Jan Occo, for the introduction on the work of ETIP SNET, and a pleasure to be here at this regional workshop. I will not take too much of your time because I think you have a very interesting program ahead of you. I'm happy to see that the turnout is so great. I'm also happy to see that you have such interesting panels, and let's say quite densely occupied panels. So I will not keep you long. I just want to make a few points in terms of what is happening on our side, let's say, and why we count on ETIP SNET so much for our work. Of course, you know that one thing that keeps us particularly busy these days in DG Energy is everything that has to do with Fit for 55, reviewing the key elements of the legislation so that we can have the necessary rules in place in order to bring us to 55% less greenhouse gas emission reductions by 2030. And this is a big task. The pressure is very high. And there, of course, we're looking particularly at the emission trading scheme, at the Renewable Directive and the Energy Efficiency Directive. And then later this year, also at the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive and the Gas Directive, to see how we can also promote renewable gases. So these are some very important pieces of legislation that will also impact the work of ETIP SNET, although possibly quite, not as directly, for example, as the Clean Energy Package has. But it is important nevertheless, because of course, all these things focus very much on targets and on everything that is connected to the system, so to say, the renewables, the buildings, the energy efficient operating of heating systems. But all of these things together need to drive the transition and need to bring us to 2030 and then to climate neutrality in 2050. And I think, as Jan already outlined, the way that our system is changing is incredible, and making all of this work together in the electricity system, but also the link between electricity and heating, electricity and transport. It's the pace is unprecedented. We also need to go at this pace if we want to meet the targets that we set for ourselves. But it requires a huge effort, and there are many unanswered questions, so to say. And we rely on ETIP SNET basically to be our scouts and to tell us where the issues are that will come up, because I think that is a really important role. Be the scout, so to say, of where can we expect the constraints on the system if we want to meet these targets, and how can we go about solving them, and what is the innovation that we need for that. And of course, we are trying to respond to that with programs like Horizon Europe, and the program is basically as good as ready. There are still a few administrative steps to be taken, and of course it needs to still be adopted formally. But you probably have seen that there is already a version published, and I don't expect that this will change very much anymore. And you may have seen also that the importance of integrating everything into one system, the systemic innovation, so to say, will really remain a key element of our work program. So I hope that also many of the people here will join in for calls to come up with good project ideas, because we really need those, and we really need to test the solutions of the future. And I think that there also we count on ETIP SNET with the outreach, with the regional workshops, bringing in the new themes that are coming up, to make sure that we always keep this systemic approach, because otherwise we're just not going to meet the targets. I think that the level of innovation is really going very fast, but fitting all of this together in one system may very well be the bottleneck if we don't keep driving the innovation in this area as well. And so, on the one hand, being the scout, on the other hand, making sure that let's say all of the troops and everybody in Europe knows what's happening, and is aware of the latest state of innovations, and can benefit from the experience as it has happened in other regions, for us is also an extremely important role for ETIP SNET. So the cooperation that is happening through ETIP SNET with the different other stakeholder platforms, the integrative role, like in today's workshop, and your involvement, for example, in the workshop on 5 May on digitalization together with Batteries Europe, from our point of view, are really important things, because as I said, we're about to publish the work program for Horizon Europe. for 2021 and 2022. So we'll have a bit of time now. So we're in a way, in terms of the programming cycles, we're a bit in an in-between phase. So I think in this phase, it's particularly important to gather the new ideas, gather the new evidence, and make sure that we keep this outreach to different parts of the system. And as you know, and I think you have been very important also in making that, setting the framework for it to happen, because it still needs to happen. We put a great deal of importance into projects where the different actors start working together. We've been working together with our colleagues in DG Connect to launch joint calls on digitalization, and that has been, we've seen a real impact there in terms of bringing digital stakeholders into the energy discussion that previously weren't there so much. Now I think the key issues where we would want to do this is also, for example, in the industrial complex, so to say, in the industrial calls and the way they can provide flexibility to the grid, as well as the link between ETIP SNET and the 2.0 partnership and the battery zero partnership, to see how the e-mobility and the integration of cars into the electricity system is actually going to work, and how we make sure that that will happen in a smart way. And Jan-Åke, you already mentioned the digitalization. I think the changes in the, it's not only the system, it's not only the huge ambition we have for the society, but also the way we operate the electricity network. It's changing very, very fast. And digitalization is, as you said, a key enabler for it. And it is happening in many different dimensions. And if we talk about Fit for 55, and we talk about renewables, or we talk about the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, those things will obviously be more important. And we see really the benefits of digitalization in making most value out of the assets, which in the end makes renovations cheaper or make renewables more cost effective. So it is very important. You may know that we are currently preparing a digitalization of energy action plan that is foreseen for next year, where we actually try to bring together all these different dimensions of how digitalization can help the energy transition, and see where the commonalities are and where the synergies are between these different aspects. And one of the biggest issues there is obviously data exchange. I think data exchange, first of all, to make the flexibility markets happen, and to make sure that in real time, also for operational purposes, network operators, aggregators, suppliers, e-mobility service providers, many more of those. How can they cooperate in real time to make the system smarter and use the available energy in the best way? But there we see the link with e-mobility coming, and the two worlds coming together, namely energy as a service and mobility as a service. The same is happening in buildings. If we talk about the renovation wave and the way that buildings need to become smarter, and also the data from buildings need to be much more easily available to make renovations happen. At the same time, those data are very important for the operation of the building and for integrating it into the grid, in particular if a building has solar panels on its roof and has some e-mobility charging points in its basement. So this system integration is progressing continuously, and digitalization and data are key aspects that are needed to make it happen. And so at the discussions today, what you're organizing on the 5th of May together with Battery Zero and 2.0 and some others, all these things for us are really, really important for our digitalization of energy action plan. And we want to make some concrete steps how to make data exchange happen. How can we create a European data exchange infrastructure, an energy data space? As I said, for flexibility markets, I think that's a key role, but there are many other functions for which such data can be used. And we of course also believe that once these data start becoming available, many more new innovations are possible. But there is a clear drive for digitalization and for data sharing, which is a better integration of renewables into the grid. That's where we want to start, and from there we want to build it out. And I think the potential business cases, the potential examples of how this can be done and what the benefits are, I think there we again count very much on ETIP SNET to help us with evidence, with concrete examples, so that we can make the case. Because we see very often in our discussions with colleagues, and if we talk to the commissioner about this, that everybody likes digitalization and like everybody likes innovation. But how do we actually make it happen? What is it, and what are the concrete benefits? I think there we have a world to gain, and I think the experience that we have in this, virtually around the table in today's workshop is unprecedented. So I'm looking forward to your discussion here today and the outcomes. I'm also happy to see that many of our colleagues are participating in the different panels with very equipped moderators. So looking forward and wishing you a very good workshop, and looking forward to a continued cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you from our side. Thank you for being here. Well, so we take back from your speech some key words. I would say integration, digitalization, collaboration, participation, and involvement. To continue to collaborate with you, so we will base our activities on these keywords. So, and now let's enter with some minutes late, but thanks very much for these highlights, and thanks for having been here with us. And let's go ahead with the panel session. I leave the floor to the moderators, so through Ludwig, Kark, and Shenia Rudenberg to drive you in this first panel. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Maria Laura. Thank you, Mark. Thank you also, Jan Oko, for these introductory words. So we meanwhile know a lot. Everybody knows a lot about ETIP SNET. But now we are about to give you faces to the slides and the speeches. We will present to you the people that develop the plans, that manage these entire series of the projects and these workshops, and also the implementation plans. So we invite one after the other. We have a big task. We are 8 minutes late, and we also have set people that they have to manage to give their introductions in at the maximum 99 seconds, so I cut it to 89 seconds now. But anyway, let's hurry. I have to check if Shenia is with me. Shenia, can you show your face? So it's two
yes,
moderators.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
So Shenia has been doing a lot in organizing this workshop and preparing everything. And so we will jointly moderate this next session. And we would like to ask one after the other to come forward and speak up. I think we should not share slides. I think we don't need them, actually. You tell us, Rainer, if you need the big slide, but otherwise we can just see your faces. I welcome Rainer Bacher first. Rainer Bacher, and many people know him. Whenever it comes to roadmaps or implementation plans on a European level, Rainer somehow shows up, and this has been the case in the ETIP SNET as well. The SNET stands, Rainer, it stands for Smart Networks for Energy Transition. You are one of the architects of the workshops. You are the architects of the implementation plan. What networks are we talking at all? What networks are we talking?
Well, thank you very much, Ludwig, and thanks for having the opportunity to talk a few words here. First, everything is a product here of ETIP SNET stakeholders. Of course, some do a little moderation and some do the writing and correcting reviews. So I did that, but in the end, what we talk about here is a long story of ETIP SNET achievements, I think. And clearly, it started all with, it is clear, with electrical networks. 10 years ago, everybody talked about the complexity of that world. It had many people didn't know what this is. They just knew it exists. They saw the towers, you know, they didn't even know that there are cables in the ground, which are for some reason complicated and complex to operate and to plan. But networks are much more now. Today, it has evolved the world. We are talking about not only electricity grids, but clearly this is still the backbone of our energy system. But we are talking about, technically speaking, about heating and cooling grids. We are talking about evolution of gas grids towards green gases. We are talking about communication links. So this is the technical part. All these worlds are interconnected, very complex. But we are also talking about networks of people. Networks of member states, of countries in Europe, of consumers, of storage, of equipment suppliers, and so on. Okay. And ETIP SNET brings all these different entities of this big network together and tries to shape common opinions. What do we need to do?
And this is not only networks on European level, it's also touching down to the member states level, as I understand. Is that correct?
It's even beyond member states. It touches the UK and Switzerland.
Oh,
just to say that. So we are all together here to define where the future for the system of systems, system of energy systems shall go.
We don't have much time, Rainer. I know that you can speak for an hour on the implementation plan. Can you, in less than 60 seconds, summarize what you put in the implementation plan? Is that only technology? Is that also these networks that you have been describing?
Well, it's very complicated because we need to simplify a complex story. Let me just say what the two big elements are in which we try to simplify it. One is we want to say what are the building blocks which we want to achieve by projects. We have defined 5 building blocks with 12 functionalities, and I don't go into them. Later we will go actually in the sessions. And the other side is the research side which we have grouped into 6 so-called research areas. So if one can place him or herself into both the research areas and on the other side where the contributions are towards building the system, you are in the world of the ETIP SNET IP.
Okay, thanks, Rainer. So if you want to talk more to Rainer, he will lead one of the parallel sessions later. And of course, you can also address people in the chat and they will answer directly. And so let's go on. I think Shenya.
Yes, thanks, Ludwig. And I would like to give the floor to Professor Nikos Hatziagioriou. He is one of the specialists and one of the persons that knows the ETIP SNET the best. He has been chair and also vice chair of ETIP SNET, and he is a specialist from the academia and also specialist for DSO. So in your view, Professor Hatziagioriou, why is ETIP SNET so important from your perspective?
Oh, thank you very much, Xenia, for the introduction. Thank you very much also for the invitation to this interesting panel. Indeed, I believe that ETIP SNET is extremely important for the research and innovation and as for the European energy policy initiatives. And in fact, the main strength of ETIP SNET is that it provides consolidated stakeholder views of the main associations of the active in Europe. In fact, the activities of ETIP SNET encompass almost everybody, associations of TSOs, DSOs, of research and academia, of storage, of consumers, of flexible generation, both thermal and renewable, of ICT, network and also software, of equipment manufacturers, also interfaces with other energy sectors and regulators. So everybody almost is here, and that's why it makes providing consolidated views of all the stakeholders is very challenging and very worthwhile.
Nikos, can I ask you a question? You have been pretty much involved together with us in preparing these regional workshops, and we had a discussion, remember, when we asked ourselves, do we still call it regional? And why do we call it regional when we have people from all Europe and even beyond? Why do you believe that we should still call it regional workshops?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Of course, the word regional has changed its meaning now, but it still should be called regional because Europe is a continent of several regions. And although various regions have different structures, different perhaps problems, different priorities, we all share a common goal, which is the decarbonization of the energy system. And in that sense, it's very worth seeing what each region, how each region deals with this problem, how we can align our research and innovation activities, how we can learn lessons, how we can avoid duplication of work and learn from each other. So these workshops are really regional because they provide a regional experience.
Okay,
That's
so
why
we are working with and for the regions in Europe.
That's right. Yeah.
Who is next? I think we have Aris.
Yes.
He also contributed a lot to the preparation. Aris, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Ah, now yeah. I can see you.
There was interruption.
How does this entire series of workshops, how does that help you in your work? I mean, you are doing a lot of work in the ETIPS development processes together with Rainer and Nikos. How do you believe that this type of workshops can help you?
Yes, many people are involved in the preparation of the new implementation plan and the update of the roadmap. Shortly, as mentioned by Oko, both documents include details about future RNI activities, needs. The roadmap has a longer horizon, while the implementation plan has a shorter one and is more detailed. So to support these activities, among the others, we need to collect some important information from ongoing projects. First of all, key achievements and which part of the previous implementation, which parts of the previous implementation plan have already been covered.
Okay.
Identify topics from the previous implementation plan that have not been sufficiently tackled. And also identify new technical challenges that is important to include them in the next implementation plan. So this series of workshops is a great opportunity to gather the necessary information and knowledge, and also to directly interact with ongoing projects.
So unfortunately, we could invite only some, I don't know, 15 or 20 projects to present, but they stand past pro toto, and we selected them very carefully. So you will see that in the parallel sessions. Any other question to Aris from Shenya?
No, Ludwig, I think you can take the floor also for our next speaker, Natalie Samovic.
Yes, because I told you up front that I want to welcome Natalie.
Okay.
Normally we meet very often in Brussels. Now we don't, Natalie, but I'm happy to have you here. Now we get to the series of the working groups, and we had invited all the chairs and representatives one after the other. So, Natalie, you are representing Working Group 1. This is about business and technology trends contributing to the overall energy system optimizations. That's what they call themselves. Later, we will ask Elena and Jan about the trends in digitalization and so on. My question to you is, beyond digitalization,
yes,
what are the major trends that we are facing?
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation. Great to be here. And yes, as was mentioned already by Oko and by Mark, there are lots of challenges ahead. At least we know what are those challenges. And I think the task of the Working Group 1 and Ludwig, by the description of the working group, you already gave lots of hints as to what we're tackling. So it's optimized systems, it's the reduction of the operational costs, it's the optimal investments, but we are approaching it from the not only what, but how. So we know that the future energy system will require more integrated and enhanced dynamics between all the value chains in the energy sector that we mentioned already, integration of the consumer. and within the context of the energy transition and decarbonization goal, linking in the optimal way the all various resources and networks to the consumption sectors. And this brings to a system of system vision that also was mentioned before, where electricity becomes the leading energy carrier and the power grids as the backbone to the decarbonization. And in this context, within this year, we're specifically focusing on 3 areas, which is integration of the EVs, the flexibility and the resilience of the overall system, and the topics related to the impact of the green hydrogen. There is a lot more. You gave 89 seconds. I can go on, but there is also lots of recent work that's been published by the working group on the system integration, which we welcome everyone to have a look at. It's already published on the ETIP SNET publications, and I'm sure we will go into further discussions on this. Thank you.
Thank you for this quick insight to working group number 1. We come to working group number 2.
Hi, Vic, how are you?
Genia, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm with you, but I would have still one more question for Nathalie, actually.
Yeah, please.
Nathalie, as chair of Working Group 1, I would be interested to know what are your expectations towards the sessions today?
Well, it's already started very dynamic. First of all, getting greater insights from the wider community, and we saw that the representation is very wide. It's on the very rare occasions, and especially during these circumstances of the pandemic, that we get a chance to get additional opinions and the insights. So that's one. Also an opportunity to invite greater participation in the 3 topics that I mentioned, if there is interest, and also given the already mentioned the view of the roadmap and the implementation plan, to hear if there are more insights in addition to the ones that we already considered within the working group.
Okay, thank you. Yes, please, Ludwig.
Yes, let's continue with working group number 2. We invited Enrique Morgades. You are showing up already.
Yeah.
Someone can put you in the spot. It's about storage. You're talking storage. It seems like storage is a vehicle for all problems now in the energy system. Why did storage get such an important role?
Well, thank you, Ludwig, for the question, and thank you, the organizer, for the invitation and the organization of this workshop. So, to go to your question, the importance, and in my opinion, comes from the flexibility that the energy storage is able to provide, or will be able to provide, in the case of emerging developing technologies in the energy scenario. To me, there are 3 main drivers that are making energy storage to become a promising technology. So first of all is technology itself, technology development, the improved performance and cost coming from the research and development effort that is being made by the industry and the academy. The second part that is already mentioned by Oko at the beginning of the speech is the new generation mix that we are heading to, linked to the regulation and the market. So the more we go towards intermittent and volatile generation, the more space for energy storage and flexible solutions or flexibility solutions. And finally, customer acceptance on the application. So there are a great number of pilots worldwide, and energy storage is becoming a real asset. So to me, the real evolution of the energy scenario has started, and we are departing from an ecosystem that was created thousands of years ago, and now we are in a path to improve. So we are starting to walk a path towards how we will see the future in the energy storage. I won't call energy storage as a vaccine for all the problems, but it's for sure a relevant asset and one of the most relevant assets that will have a real impact in the energy scenario. And we think, or I think at least, that it's a driver for the energy sector that we want to build.
But Enrique, I mean, look at me, I'm old. I don't just look old, I am old. I'm in that business since I don't know. 10 years, 15 years ago, everybody told me it's about storage. Now, what's new? Why are we still asking ourselves, how do we get enough storage? How much do we get? Is there something new, or what is missing?
Well, probably technology development has gone slower than expected. That might be one of the reasons. But to give you some figures, excluding pumped hydro, which is the highest and the widest development in energy storage that we have in Europe and worldwide, the energy storage market contracted 1 gigawatt hour in 2019, and we have an expectancy of a greater figure in 2020. If we go to the, well, there are several forecasts and reports that we can see in the energy scenario. We expect approximately a 15 to 20% component annual growth rate in the main markets, being Europe, China, and America. There's an amazing work being done in research and development. If we go to IPR figures, we can see an exponential parabola in the numbers, which reflects an important effort being done by academia and also by the industry, for sure, that are getting closer to get market uptake of technologies. And for sure, we can see recent moves in the past months. So Europe is positioning itself as a hub for energy storage, with big facilities to become worldwide manufacturers, with huge investments behind, and also whole countries of support. So
does mobile storage, does the Tesla world or the BMW or whomsoever world bring a new story to that discussion?
Well, actually, I think all the manufacturers, OEMs, are positioning there. So it's not only Tesla. Yeah. Tesla is the pioneer, but now all the manufacturers are going behind, and some of them maybe they can also overcome Tesla. So there are big movements, and I think all the countries in Europe, mainly with this Energy Storage Alliance, are positioning themselves to become big players here. So I think things are changing. So
let me bring in. Sorry, I have to run. Let me bring in Alexander Wiedermann. He represents Working Group 3. Working Group 3 is about flexible generation. And if I could have the both of you, I could lead a debate. The more flexible we are, the less storage we need, or vice versa. What are you doing, Alexander?
Yes.
Do we still need flexible generation when we have so much storage?
Yes. Thanks a lot for inviting me to reply to your question. Well, considering the fact that maybe we can extend the storage from, say, at the current several gigawatt hours to thousands and more terawatt hours, which we would need in the future to cover all the demands. Let me show it in 2 examples where I think that flexible generation still plays an important role. We have assessed all power generation models with regard to its dispatchability, and this is also important to do this the same with the storage. And of course, see it in a very local way. See it in highly industrialized countries where we have a lot of process industry. So they are running very expensive and highly energy intensive units, and to provide heat and energy to the plant. And they need to rely on the fact that these will be also guaranteed for a longer time. You see, of course, there are storage devices which have a very high dispatchability, but it's known that this storage, of course, only works for a very short time. And in the meantime, it is important that also the power generation has to keep track with the demands for just maintaining power and heat to these plants. Be it on the next side, you see that many communities and towns, so they equip with their power stations with highly flexible units, say based on a couple of smaller, medium-sized units. And this is also important because it is not only the way that we have a constant demand and it goes away for a short time, but we also need to keep track with the overall demand by the consumer.
So we need both. We need both. We need the flexibility.
Yes.
We need the storage. Do you foresee something like a break even, or where, I don't know, storage is cheaper than flexible generation?
Well, it depends on. So we have in ETIP SNET we have identified also the gas and hydrogen as one of the very important backbones for the 2050 decarbonization. And of course, a lot depends on the way of how cheap hydrogen can be produced and how the round trip efficiency, power to gas to power, can be also improved. We have a round trip efficiency of about 25%, which is rather small. We need to increase it considerably, and I know that there's space to do this. And it depends on also whether really current conventional plants, or a couple of conventional plants, can be also run with green fuels, with a blend of hydrogen and natural gas.
Okay.
And do also consider that carbon is still for many industries. This is still one of the raw materials for synthetics, plastic synthetic materials, for fiber synthetics, and so on. And so we will need flexible generation with
forever.
All the
forever.
With all the ways.
Yes,
that's right.
You want to ask another question, Zhenya, to Alexander, or shall we go ahead?
I would suggest we can have one more question for Jelena Boskov-Kovacs and for Jan Rošek, and one for Venizelos Eftimou, and then we should go ahead with the parallel sessions, which are supposed to...
You are driving us.
Kick off soon.
But we have to present, thank you, Alexander, we have to present all working groups before.
Yes.
Next would be Working Group 4. Working Group 4 is about the impact of the information communication technology. We have Elena Boskov-Kovacs here. I hope we have her.
Yes, you do. I'm here.
I don't see your picture.
I'm here.
Someone should spot you.
Hope you can see me right now.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It is seriously a pleasure and an honor to participate in this regional workshop and to represent the Working Group 4 associated with digitalization topic, as it was mentioned by Oko and by many of you so far, Rainer as well, who will be leading the panel a little bit later on. Digitalization is a key enabler. So while other working groups are focused on business aspects of technology aspects, digitalization is without question also one of the largest, if not the largest working group of ETIP SNET, because it attracts functional, cross-sectoral aspects of all research and innovation projects. So most of the projects taking place today are enabled and supported by digitalization technologies. And this working group in the past has developed digitalization of energy system customer participation white paper, which was one of the most downloaded because it shed light on new digitalization use cases. It was very innovative because it didn't only emphasize innovation projects which were funded by different national bodies and European Commission, but actually also initiatives driven by stakeholders themselves. And Working Group 4 right now is focused, as it was mentioned previously, on development of the big idea with the aim to increase competitiveness of Europe as a whole, European stakeholders, European industry.
That's the structural question. Is there any trend in technology? I mean, do you talk blockchain all day long now, or what are the big trends in technology that you discuss?
You can certainly look into more resources that are being discussed as different aspects. For sure, different levels of architectures. Because when we are discussing a big idea as one-stop shop platform, it is actually a system of systems. It's quite complex system, enabling us to eventually be very efficient, much more efficient, and break the barriers in terms of data exchange and really leveraging and utilizing the data as the gold.
Data is key. Data is key. We know that, but many people are afraid that people steal their data. Is there a compromise inside?
Yes, for sure. And it's also, please join us for the panel number 3. We will be discussing that. So in order to actually leverage the data, you need to have access to the data, which has not been completely dehumanized and shred of valuable information they would normally carry, while Europe currently has one of the most stringent laws with the introduction of GDPR on data protection. So there are many ways in terms of how data can be public and private data used today in order to facilitate this competitive wholesale marketplace. In addition to that, I should also say that we won't be talking only about, I would say, high-level concepts. We are discussing, of course, digital twin. We are discussing blockchain platforms, but we are discussing continuously use cases. Please join us for this as well. It's super important because we are trying to make concrete use cases applicable to other regions, which is the topic of this workshop as well.
You have a good chance to be in every cases. You should be in every workshop because digitalization is everywhere. Thanks, Zhenya, you rush us, so we leave 99 seconds to a person that can talk about helicopters.
Yes, so we are heading to Working Group 5, and we call Working Group 5 the Helicopter Working Group. Venizelos Eftimo, I invite you to our discussion. Please, can you explain why?
Yeah. A big word, why. Good morning from my side. Working Group 5 has learned to have a step back and from technology evolution and experts and needs, and try to see, to have and develop a helicopter view to bring into perspective homogeneity, because it's crucial, it's important, to foster holistic views on burning issues that are horizontal. And we would like to alert forgotten issues that through the effort of projects to address technological solutions, they tend to forget scalability and replicability and how these can be innovative and how can they bring innovation in their work and their endeavors and push these and raising impact and helping outcomes to find their ways to the market and manage to breach what we call the valley of death, which is something that projects usually face, and they end up on shelves instead of being valuable to the real economy.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So Ludwig, I think I can give...
You should go ahead, huh?
I should go ahead, okay. So maybe one last question. I know your project Pantera, and it looks like this helicopter flies all over Europe. what do you see from the helicopter? What do the European regions need?
Yeah, that's a very, very important, crucial thing. We have touched on regions, and I think the question before raised the important fact that Europe, we are trying to cover all issues and bring Europe onto a same level of development and work and leave no one behind. And this, for us, is a problem because Europe has identified that many countries are not spending enough. They are not actually active enough in this attempt to bridge and go to the energy transition objectives and objectives. And so through Pantera and the ETIP platform that we are doing through this coordination and support action, we are working together with ETIP SNET and Bridge and a lot of others in Europe to try and bring and give a helicopter view and see where the gaps are and where knowledge and situations for reinventing the wheel are in progress, and they are doing it over and over again. And we want to avoid this. We want to bring through this ERI platform, through the Pantera project, a process through which we generate data, information, knowledge for cooperation between countries through ERANETs, through partnerships, raising awareness, means and capabilities for Europeans to really work together and learn from the lessons of others and build on that.
Yes, thank you. I think we are doing a big job on that, and you do a big job on that together with the Spring and ETIP people. Bring in the member state views as well. We are looking at national stakeholder group as well, which we didn't present today, but this is also part of the ETIP SNET. So there's lots of activities going on in the working groups. We somehow split the next session to the topics of the working group, but not exactly. We have to split into the parallel sessions now, Shenya.
Exactly.
How does that work?
So please look at the chat. My colleagues and our technical team have pasted the links for you to join the parallel session. So please go now to the parallel session that you have chosen, either on electromobility, either on cooperation between energy system operators, digitalization, or consumer and citizen engagement. We invite you to go there, and we see you there. Then I wish you all a very nice parallel session, and see you then in the joint session at the end. Back together.
I ask, Shenya, Rainer speaking, can I ask you a question? We are 1 quarter delayed. Shall we catch it up, or do we get it?
Let's continue until 12. We move everything 15 minutes back. Okay?
Yes.
So we go until 12. We make a break from 12 to 12:10, and then we hurry up in summarizing.
Exactly.
That's your responsibility, Rainer, then. So you get more space, more time in the parallel session, but less time to report. Is that fair?
It's fine. Thank you.
See you in the parallel sessions. Bye-bye.
See you in the parallel sessions. Bye.